Hi everyone, good evening. I welcome all of you to the panel discussion on writing a successful application for the Fulbright-Nehru Masters Fellowships. First of all, I welcome all the participants who have taken a thoughtful step towards their Fulbright journey. So, welcome. I would like to then welcome all the panelists who have joined today to mentor the prospective applicants. So we have with us Disha, Ipshita, Pallavi, and Sudarshan. I request each of the panelists to please introduce themselves. So can I request Disha, please introduce yourself to the participants.
Hi, my name is Disha Vadekar. I'm a lawyer and I am a 2023-24 Fulbright Fellow, Fulbright-Nehru Masters Fellow. I went to Columbia Law School, specifically Columbia University in New York. Yeah, glad to share my thoughts and my experience about Fulbright, my master's program. Thank you.
Thank you, Disha. Ipshita.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for having me, Gayatri and Sudarshan. My name is Ipshita Karmakar. I am a 2021-22 Fulbright Nehru Masters Scholar going to MIT for urban planning. I'm currently an urban resilience consultant with the World Bank, and I'm talking to you from DC.
Thank you, Ipshita. Pallavi.
Hello everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm Pallavi Khare. I'm also a 2023-24 Fulbright Nehru Masters Fellow. I'm a social impact media manager. That's been my career throughout. And I went to Syracuse University to study public diplomacy and global communications.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Sudarshan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sudarshan Das. I work as a senior program officer at USIF. I oversee the administration of Fulbright Nehru and other Fulbright fellowships for Indians to go to the US. Thank you so much for joining us today's webinar.
Thank you so much, Sudarshan. So you see, we have four panelists who are going to share the magic which leads to the success of your Fulbright success to the Fulbright Fellowship. So before I actually begin, the presentation and interaction with the panelists, I just want to make sure everybody is able to hear us clearly. So can you all see the chat box? If you could actually say yes, yes, yes in the chat box, or I can also see a lot of thumbs up going up. I want you to use the chat box just to ensure that you're able to also write questions towards the end of the session. Okay, let's use question session. I can see few yeses coming in the question session. Okay, great. So please use the same questions box to drop your questions, and we will take around 5 or 6 questions towards the end of the session. Please ensure that the questions are addressed to the panelists. Also specify who are you asking this question, and try and ask questions which are related to the topic, which is actually on writing a successful application and not related to the eligibility criteria. If you have questions related to eligibility, please write to USIF staff. You can write to me or the concerned USIF staff in regional offices for any kind of clarification on those aspects. But I want you to use this opportunity to ask questions to the panelists who have taken time out to share some of the tips, tricks, magic with you today. Okay, so let's get started. Some of you may have already attended our information session where we actually provided a detailed overview of the program, the fields of study, eligibility, application process. But in today's session, what I will do, I will take 2 minutes to just do a recap on the program components, but essentially focus on the main sections of the application form. So this year, the application cycle which is open is for the academic year 26-27. So we are inviting applications from candidates who will begin their program in 2026. So we are not funding any candidate who begins their program in fall 2025 and is seeking funding for the second year. That's not how it works. So this is only for candidates who will begin their program in fall 2026. We are offering these 8 fields which are listed on the screen. You can read their field description on the website. Please note there is a change in the fields this year. You can only apply in one of the fields, so carefully choose which field you want to um, earn your degree or graduate from the US university. In order to be eligible for the Fulbright-Nehru Masters Fellowships, the candidates must have equivalent of 4 years of undergrad, which means either a 4 year of degree like architecture, engineering, law, medicine, uh, not really law because unless it's a BA LLB 5 year law degree. If your undergrad is for 3 years, then either you should have a postgraduate diploma or a master's. Now that's the academic requirement. In terms of professional requirement, the applicant must have at least 3 years of full-time professional work experience by the application deadline. And the application deadline is May 14th, 2025, less than a month. How to apply? Very, very simple. You go online and you have to submit an online application. We have posted detailed application instructions for the applicants. Please download those instructions because they are going to be very, very helpful as you work on different sections of the application form. There is what we call as the employer's endorsement form. Now, this is only required from candidates who are permanently employed with an organization and are seeking leave from the organization in order to participate in the program if selected. Now, if you are either working as a freelance consultant or on a contractual position and you don't require a leave, either your contract is going to end or you will end the contract if you're selected and go on the program, then you don't really require an employer's endorsement form. We have also uploaded application checklist. So maybe around, May 1, please look at that application checklist to make sure that you are ready with each and every document that is being asked to upload in the application form. This will help you to ensure that you are submitting a complete application form. Okay, so I am sure many of you, or hopefully all of you, would have already started your application form. So once you register, you will see a lot of different sections in the application. There are around 14, 15 sections. Now, some of these sections will ask for factual information, which is okay in terms of your contact information, personal information, your academic background, your work history. Please ensure that you're completing each and every column. Do not leave it blank. Do not provide incomplete information to the panel, to the reviewers. However, there are certain sections, for example, the study plan, which requires a considerable time and which is a very important component of the application form. And that's what we are going to talk very soon. There is a plagiarism agreement, which each applicant has to read carefully, not just sign, but read carefully before you sign. Because Fulbright has a strict no-no policy against plagiarism. So when a candidate is nominated, our partner agency in the US, they run your application for plagiarism detection. And if there is a substantial plagiarism, the application is not at all considered for the Fulbright program. So even after the nomination stage, the application of the nominee can be rejected only because there is a plagiarism in the application form. So please read, understand, and be very careful about plagiarism. Have a clear understanding. And if you have any questions about that, do not hesitate to reach out to the USIF staff or even alumni for that matter. Use of AI can also impact your application because the selection panel is actually looking at you as an individual. They want to look at your Fulbright story, which is unique, original, genuine. They don't want to hear AI story. So let your heart and brain or head talk. in your application, and don't use AI. Okay, now comes the real um, application component. But before we go there, let me actually ask our panelist. Let's Disha, you go first, okay? Why do you think the Fulbright panel selected you over other candidates? What was your unique, I would say, USP?
It's a difficult question, and it's difficult to answer, especially I think as Indian students, Indian candidates. I think we have this ability or skill of underestimating ourselves. But still, I would say that when I looked at all the other previous Fulbright fellows, especially in the Masters in Law program, which is the Masters in International Legal Studies program, I saw that there was a difference. There was a difference in terms of the lived experience that I came with. A, B, I saw that a lot of the previous Fulbright fellows, or even the Fulbright fellows in my batch, I saw that the work profile was different. I also saw that what was unique was that I was talking about issues, and I was working on issues like caste, gender, and its intersection with law, which had not been dealt with, or which a lot of people were not addressing in their work in the past. So I think that compared to, I wouldn't say compared to all others, but I would say that my application was unique in a sense that I spoke about the intersection of caste, gender, and law, which I don't think a lot of other applicants were working on or talking about. So I think that that was unique. But what was also unique was, like I said, that all of this work also came with the lived experience. So I think that I would say was the unique aspect of my application.
Thank you, Disha. Ipshita, when you applied in the field of urban and regional planning, what do you think was the uniqueness which you brought in front of the Fulbright panel?
So yeah, as Disha mentioned, it's a really hard question to answer, and I think that's a question that's best answered by the admissions committee. I will, however, say that I came from a different kind of, like, I'm sort of an anomaly in the application process in the sense that I was admitted in the COVID year. So basically, what I had was an admission already before I applied for the Fulbright. I applied with a deferred admission to MIT, and I think that gave a lot of clarity to my application also as to like which university I want to go to, why I want to go there. I'd already done the admission, so there was a certain credibility, I would say, of like it being a good application. So maybe that made a difference. Again, that's not something that I've confirmed with the admissions committee, so I'm not sure if that's true. But I think that does make a difference, and it's a point to note that you could also apply with a deferred admission, and that is not something that I knew before. I think what also helped maybe was the fact that I had also worked in Nepal for a year before I'd done my application. And that basically maybe showed a sort of commitment to cross cultural experiences, to sort of leaving the country and then working in a different country and understanding and sort of an adaptability that comes from that sort of experience. A lot of my work was also community based. So I was working on the ground in post earthquake reconstruction in Nepal. And I was working with a lot of civil society organizations, a lot of community facing organizations. And one of the big aspects of the Fulbright application is that your work should be in the service of community and public service. And I think maybe those are some of those things that helped make the application a little more unique as maybe compared to others. But I do think that a deferred admission made a difference.
Thank you so much, Ipshita. Pallavi, what was your uniqueness, strengths that you shared with the panel?
Um, I think looking back, I'll say two things. One was I really leaned into, like Disha said, my lived experience. I'm a woman of color from India who's been working at the intersection of public policy, community-centered development, and media for a very long time. And there was a commitment to equity and social development throughout my work. I think what also helped was that I started very young. I was 17 when I started community mobilizing for the first time. And I could build that intent and I could build that clarity and that authenticity into the application. I think all of us have very unique careers and professions, but it is about weaving that together in a comprehensive way. And I think that really worked to lean into your lived experiences, because we do really have remarkable work trajectories, and put that across with authenticity and clarity. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Pallavi. Now let's look at the two key essays that you write in the application form, and they're actually the most vital part of the application, your study objectives. It's very important to be very, very clear about which field you are applying in. So whether you want to do your masters in international legal studies, economics, environmental studies. So it's very important for you to be very clear about it and build your study objectives around that clarity. Now let's hear from Disha and Ipshita. So, Disha, I'll request you to share what 3 points did you keep in mind when you started writing your study objectives?
Yeah, Gayatri, before going into what are the 3 points, I just want to clarify that this was the part of the application that I was most confused about. Because I was going for a master's in law program at Columbia, which is not a specialized program. So we were not getting a specialized degree. So I did not understand for a really long time how to fit this aspect of study objective of Fulbright with a generalized master's program, right? And what helped me was talking to a lot of previous Fulbright fellows and just generally asking them what is the expectation of this study objective part of the application. And what I learned from them was most of them said that just think of it as an academic proposal, right? And you are writing that sort of an academic proposal. And I think that made it really easy for me. I will tell you the three aspects that I looked into. So I basically wrote a lot about the work that I have done. With the criminal justice system, with the criminal legal system, as a litigating lawyer, as a community organizer, and with that work, of course, every work that we do, it is not always a linear experience. There are many questions that come to us, and we don't have answers to those questions, right? We're also talking about a Fulbright program, which is a program where the minimum requirement is that you've worked for 3 years. And suddenly, if you are now thinking of a shift into academia, into a master's program, you will have to justify that. So, how do you justify that? One needs to justify that in their study objective. So, initially I wrote about my work experience. The second part of it was in this work experience, these were the questions that I was grappling with, and I did not find answers to those questions, or I'm not able to find answers to those questions. That was the second part of my study objectives application. And the third part was how am I going to address some of these questions or find answers to some of these questions through this master's program in Columbia or in whichever university I'm going to, right? But I did not just stick to these three aspects. I also ensured that I wrote about how this master's program or how finding answers to these questions would help me in the long run, in a sense that what is my long-term objective and how this master's program and Fulbright support to this master's program would really sit with my long-term goal. So my long-term goal, I had spoken about starting a civil rights organization in India, coming back to India, starting a civil rights organization. So how that was going to sit with this long-term goal. So I would say that I went a little beyond three aspects. I went with the fourth aspect as well in my study objective.
Thanks so much, Dish. And I think a lot of what I'm going to say is something that you've already touched upon already. So, one thing that you really touched upon is like the what, why question. Like, why are you doing this? Why does it have to be in the US? Why is this institution important to you? Or this university that you're applying to important to you? And then, most importantly, where do you want to go after this? Master's is just a stepping stone to building your larger long term career. So, I think one of the, I would say, points that I would highlight for the study objectives is to build on what are you going to do next. So I understand that in terms of like how long the SOP or the study objective is, a lot of time is spent on your past experiences and how that contributes to your master's. However, that is not a replay of your CV. The CV is coming in as a component of your application, and it should be read that way in the sense that you can read all of this together as part of an application. In terms of urban planning, we also have a portfolio. It's not a requirement; it's optional, but a lot of urban planning students also provide a portfolio, and think of it as like various parts of a complete application. So things you've not covered in your study objectives can go in your portfolio or in your personal statement. That being said, I think it's very important to focus on the end goal. The end goal of your master's does not have to be, I mean, it should be clearly defined. It is, however, you're not locked into it. You can always, while you're doing a master's, change your study objectives and what you want to do, but it's good to have some clarity as to what you want to get at the end of the experience and expand on that, I would say. Be very, very selective of what you want to highlight. I would say the biggest advice that I got was just edit as much as you can. It's important to have like one document that's simple, easy to understand, and anyone outside of your field should be able to understand it as well, instead of having a long document which sort of rambles in various directions. So those are my 2 cents.
Thanks, Ipsita. Pallavi, over to you. Please unmute.
I think both the panelists have kind of t said most of what I would say, but I think what de-alienates the study objective and the personal statement is that in the study objective, you'll go ahead and explain what you want to do with this Fulbright experience and what would you make from that Fulbright experience post your degree, for instance. So I was very clear in terms of I was going ahead and focusing. I had not studied public policy formally before. I had done mass communication training, but I had worked in the field. So I went in with a lot of clarity saying I want formal training in how public policy shifts narratives. And I think having that clarity and being able to explain how it will go ahead and strengthen the body of work you're already accomplishing was one of the things that is very important to outline in the study objectives. Yeah, I think that would be my addition to what the panelists did say.
Thank you so much. Now let us come and discuss about the second question, that is regarding your personal statement. Can I request you, Pallavi and Ipsita, what are the major factors you kept in mind while you developed your personal statement? Pallavi, over to you.
I think the first reminder I gave myself was that it wasn't my resume in paragraph form. It had to be what my influences were, what my early influences were, what is my work, and what it is being driven by. So I would say go ahead with a lot of authenticity, explain in that part, use that with as much creativity to explain who you are and why you're here. Beyond that, I would also say that I identified three or four pillars that I would want to go ahead and convey. So I went ahead to explain that these four pillars, for instance, equitable development, that should not, I worked across gender and caste and race, for instance, but it's tied together through equitable development. So to go ahead and map out these three or four pillars that explain why you are here, your influences, and what you want to make out of this experience. Um, I did open with a personal anecdote. I think that really helped because it is a personal statement, a short personal anecdote. And then I reflected on my professional and academic evolution. I didn't start, I'm not here because I knew from day one where I wanted to be, but it is through an iterative process of learning and growing that I now want to do this next. And this is the best step for me ahead. And that, of course, connecting all of this to my long-term goals or where I want to be, what change I want to see in the world. As a trick, I would also say I did also add what I could do for the Fulbright community. I was talking a lot about what this would do for my career, but there was a paragraph I think where I used to explain that that the problems that I'm dealing with are global problems, but I can offer a local solution, that all global problems have local solutions that can be built for them. So I think that would be a tip that I would offer everyone. And yeah, that was it. That's what I would say about the personal statement.
Remarkable. Thanks, Pallavi. Ipsita, over to you.
Yeah, and thanks, Pallavi. Again, as everything that I wanted to say has been sort of been covered by what you said. I will reiterate my previous point, which says that you're submitting an application together. So the SOP, portfolio, CV, personal statement, and all. Hi, Gayatri. Are are going in together as an application, which means that, it means that every part of this application can come in with a different perspective. For me, the personal statement was more of a motivational statement. That's another way of thinking about it, as to like what is my motivation and what are the challenges that I've overcome to sort of come to this point where I can now think about what I want to do in the future. So again, a lot of it was my experiences of what shaped me, my lived experiences, but also barriers to entry. So I was open about the fact that, caste, gender, a lot of income barriers are barriers to higher education, and this is why you need something like the Fulbright to be making education happen for everyone, not just a select few. And if there are any sort of, if you're a first generation student, or if you have had certain barriers to entry in your education in India, then that's something that you should highlight within the personal statement as well. Any opportunities you can show of personal leadership, where you have worked with communities, or you've worked help uplift communities, or your own, say, within your organization, your own colleagues, any sort of leadership opportunities with tangible results, that would be a good addition also to the personal statement. That adds a lot of value given your ability to be a leader in the future, and that's something that Fulbright is probably looking for. I will also say that there was a paragraph towards the end as to how I'm going to bring these experiences in the US back to India, as to how that's applicable back to the home country, and like what sort of experiences would be useful in sort of alleviating the challenges that I have talked about further in the personal statement. So those are some of, I would say, um, points to keep in mind while you're writing the personal statement.
That's great. Thank you so much, panelists, for giving your thoughtful remarks specific to the study objectives and also personal statement. Now I'll take around 3 to 4 minutes to provide some guidance. What the reviewers and the selection committee members expect from your study objective and personal statement. Again, these are just guidelines. You are absolutely free to write in your own way, because we always encourage originality. And if you see, Ipsita, Pallavi, and Disha, as they share their stories, they developed their application in their own way. But some of the general guidance I would like to highlight. In context of study objectives, I would like to emphasize upon 5 points from the reviewers and the selection committee members' expectation point of view. The very first point is identifying the challenges, giving a context and background. The very first paragraph, it is highly expected that you should know that what are the challenges in your field of study. And also, please give little bit of context to it and why there is a need for you to undertake that study. The very first paragraph should not be more than 7 to 8 lines. We do not expect you to give entire complete background for your study, but please give the challenge statement. And also give some starts. If you are making some claim, give some starts. Take for example, if you are in the field of international legal studies and you are planning to focus on the laws of the seas as a part of your study, please give the context that how important that study is from strategic point of view, from communication point of view, from transportation point of view, and how the laws of the sea can help in securing all those aspects. You can give some little bit of stats also to emphasize your claims. The second point, it is expected that you should clearly define your objectives. What are the main aspects that you want to focus, and do not go more than 5 objectives. Again, I will take the same example, that what you are looking at as a part of the laws of the sea. Are you looking at the environmental aspect? Are you looking at the strategic point of view? Are you looking at the undersea cables? You can take even all three also. So please define your objectives. In the second paragraph, you can take maximum 5 objectives or so. The third point is that what you can contribute to the program. And all our panelists will agree with me, I am sure. As Indians, when you are going to the US, the expectations are very high. The bar is very high. So what you can contribute to the classroom? What is your best practice? Do not name any particular university that you are going, because your proposal will be shared with more than 4 institutions or 4 universities. But at the same time, please list some of your best practices that you can share. And please note that some of the US universities give a waiver to your fees based on your contribution or your expected contribution to the classroom. So these will be some of your best practices that you can bring to the classroom. The fourth aspect about the study objectives, I would recommend that what is your research interest? Because now, as you are seeing in India as well as in the US, there is a big emphasis on research even at the undergrad level. At the master's level, obviously there is a big expectation that you should have strong research interest. So if you can devote a paragraph about what exactly and how deep you want to go to address some of the questions, your study objectives, little bit of more elaboration of your study objectives, your methodology will be highly appreciated. And also, the last point I would highlight that you should indicate that you are aware about the latest trends, challenges, and developments in your field. So the larger picture, what is happening around the world, should also come out. Again, these are just indicators. You are absolutely free to design your study objective in your own way. But the most crucial point is that you should know what you want to do during your master's program, and that should come out very clearly in the proposal. Giving a context or background provides a very clear cut understanding to the selection committee members, because sometimes we take it assume we take it as an assumption, because we generally do not tend to give the background. So these are some of the basic things or suggestions I would suggest in context of study objectives. As far as personal statement is concerned, I can tell you, Ipsita, Pallavi, and Disha, you are selected because of your belief and commitment. It is not about what you are doing because of your job responsibility. It is much more than that. The selection committees found that type of commitment for a particular cause. Take for example Disha, because I'm just focusing on 1 or 2 points. This has commitment to marginalized communities and how she can represent them in the court. That was a big selling point. Similarly, Ipsita focused on participatory planning in design. The design is something that just one person designs everything. That is not a social aspect of designing. So the participatory aspect of designing, and probably you stand for that. That was the catching point for the selection committee. Pallavi highlighted Importance of communication and empowerment of community. That is another thing. So your personal statement should very clearly say what you stand for, what you believe in, and that passionately should come out in the very first paragraph. The second point I would like to highlight regarding the personal statement is your motivation, that you are actually motivated to take something, to achieve, or to see that you are doing something in the direction of your belief and commitment. The third aspect, you can give a few examples, real time examples, or actual examples of your challenges and how you overcome them. Everybody in their life have come across some issues and challenges. So, well, you can take one or two issues and how you overcome them and what the lessons learned. The fourth aspect, the Master's Fellowship Program is all about leadership. That means how you have worked as a change leader. It could be at a very small scale. That does not matter. The scale does not matter. It's more about your commitment to bring changes. And the fifth aspect, I would say that your adaptability as a cultural ambassador, your openness, your dynamism should be highlighted. So these are the 5 points, each for the study objective and personal statement, that you should keep in mind or consider when you are developing your statements. Again, these are just indicators. You are absolutely free to design it in your own way. Gayatri, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sudarshan. I'm sorry I was thrown out of the session for a few minutes. Okay, so these two, are the most important essays in the application. They are going to take a considerable amount of your time, when you write these essays. And we strongly recommend that you write them over a few days, few weeks, maybe at different times of the day, because sometimes, when you get up in the morning, you get a very nice thought, or maybe you recollect some incident which you really want to share with the panel because that had a very strong influence on you. So spend good amount of time writing both the essays. Now what happens is, we also come across applications where a lot of applicants write similar, or to a great extent same things in both the essays. Now that's not the purpose of these essays. I mean, why would then we have two separate essays? Now sometimes we come across personal statement which is actually a narrative of their CV. Now that's not the purpose again of the personal statement. So how do you ensure that you're writing two different essays, yet they are connected to each other? So there is an underlying common thought, common you that prevails in both the essays. Now let's hear from our panelists. How did they deal with this challenge of creating that balance in writing both the essays? Disha, in what ways were your two these essay study objectives and personal statement different, yet you ensured that they were tied to each other?
Yes, thank you, Gayatri, for that question. Yes, again, this was a big uphill task, I would say, because I was confused about the study objective. I was pretty clear about the personal statement because I had been writing applications for universities and I'd been applying to universities. But with the personal statement and the study objective, I would say that I ensured that, especially the personal statement, it was about instances that shaped me, that moved me. And I had actually prepared like a journal, because I think this is something that we are, again, as Indian students and Indians, we're not good at this. We are not good at writing our own story. We are not good at giving credit to ourselves for the battles that we've fought, for how resilient we've been, how we've resisted, and how far we've come, just appreciating that. So for me, it was really important to just sit down and to just write a narration of each and every incident from childhood that really shaped me and that was etched in my mind. That really helped me develop my personal statement. Um, and initially, when I had written like my first draft of my personal statement, for instance, was something about my childhood, and I directly moved to, say, college, right? And everything in between was like this blind spot. But I realized that a lot of the things that happen in between college, between childhood and college, those things had really shaped me, because how I chose law was everything that happened in between, right? So I think that it would be useful to really address that emotive aspect, that emotional aspect of your journey in your personal statement. Whereas I would say that your study objective application should be, at least mine was, I'm not sure if that is what the committee expects, but mine was more academically oriented. It was very objective also in a way. Of course, it had aspects of the work that I've done and the questions that I am grappling with, yes. But all of that came from a legal perspective, a human rights perspective, and it had a little less to do with my lived experiences and things that had moved me and shaped me. So I ensured that I show these two sides or these two personalities to the Fulbright committee, that I am this committed, as Sudarshan said. Thanks for saying that, because we were not aware of, what the Fulbright committee really liked about our applications. At least I wasn't. But if commitment is that aspect, then I think that is where you should really, like Pallavi said, lean into your story, really lean into all the things that have moved you, and really pour it out in your application, and don't be afraid to do that, please. And as far as the study objective is concerned, show that serious side of yourself, the work that you've done, your professional experiences. That is the place where all of that seriousness, the serious work, or the objective part of your work needs to come in. So, yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Disha. Pallavi, when you were writing both these essays, how did you ensure that there were no overlaps, yet there was a harmony in both the essays?
I think it's a great question, and recognizing the difference helped embolden both essays. A kind of tip that I remembered was that I used to think, and I still think, that the personal statement is about who you are and why you care. And the study objective is what do you want to do and how the Fulbright scholarship fits into that. So my personal statement was a little more reflective. Like Disha said, it brought together my early influences, my values. Why do I want to do this work? Why do I do it? Um, and my study objective was more forward looking. What do I want to do now? With as much thought and clarity in terms of a plan of action, as it were. So I've arrived to this point through all that I've experienced so far. The personal statement was more narrative style. The study objective was more point based. I think those were small ways in which I differentiated it. But I thought of it very linearly. I've Through my personal statement, I bring the panel up to this precise moment. So how am I, who I am, and why do I care? And from here, with my study objective, I take them with me on this journey of where I want to go. So I think that really helped me.
Right. So thank you so much. I mean, I think these are like fantastic ideas for the applicants while they are writing these two important essays. So all the best to the
Oh,
applicants.
sorry, if I
Okay,
could
now
just add a thing.
sure, please.
Sorry, I just to Disha's point of like look back at your experiences, I think that's really helpful. I really thought Fulbright scholars were all these academic people who've written like massive amounts of text, but I do remember the most amount of feedback I got, for instance, in my interview was about the documentary filmmaking work that I done as a very young student. So you don't even know what will bring through. Don't leave out good experiences if you've done good work. So that's all.
Right, right. And that's a very, very valid point that everything that you write in the application, one, write very carefully, because the committee members do read each and everything that you write in the application. So if you're talking about, say, for example, any work that you did, or any YouTube channel where you have posted any work, or any, publications, anything, they would actually take the trouble to look at those sites. So yes, I mean, anything that you want to bring to the attention of the committee, make sure that it's properly articulated in different questions in the application form, wherever you think it's appropriate to mention that. Okay, now let's move to the next section, university preferences. The application form asks the applicant to list three universities in order of preference. If you look at the original instructions of the main online application form, it will say this is not a mandatory section, but for the applicants from India, this is a mandatory section. So in that section, please provide your three choices, and the column will also ask you to provide, if you have already reached out to any professor, and your reasons for choosing those US universities. The section will also ask in case you have applied earlier and what was the admission results, or in case of Ipshita, for example, she had a deferred admission. So if any one of you has a deferred admission, please mention that in the application. Now let's understand from Sudarshan that why India has made it mandatory to list the US university preferences. Sudarshan, why it is important for the applicants to list these university preferences? As a selection panel, why do they look at these list very carefully when they read the applications or when they interview the candidates?
Thanks, Gayatri. One of the most important factors why one has to list the universities, their preferences, and also give the justification why they have done so, is that to understand that the applicant has thoroughly reviewed the courses, its structure, and has chosen it by knowing that absolutely this is the best course for me that will meet my study objectives. I want to highlight that in your application there should be a continuity, not repetition. Repetition should not happen, but continuity is very important. What you say in your study objective, that is something the reviewers and the selection committee members will see in context of your university preference. They will see that yes, you have your 5 study objectives, and the university that you have chosen, does that institution provide you the platform to focus on those 4 or 5 objectives. Unfortunately, most of the applicants, they give the justification that I want to do my master's degree at a top ranked institution. This particular institution is top ranked, that's why I want to go there. That does not create a good impression. So please do not give that justification. I was Gayatri, before coming to this discussion, I was scanning through almost 15 applications, and out of that almost 14 are saying that I want to go to this particular institution because it's a top ranked institution. That cannot be the justification. Your justification should be on the basis of your academic need, your study objectives. So please thoroughly review the course structure, the courses that are offered under a particular program before you choose that institution. You have to give the preferences, and also you have to write specific reason for choosing that institution. Here in that column, it's a very short column, around 75 to 80 words. You have to give the justification that yes, I want to focus on these aspects, and these are the courses that are offered by this institution. That's why I want to go to this particular institution. Once again, please do not give the justification that it is a top ranked institution that I want to go. You can here, you can quote, take the context of one or two professors in your study plan, in your personal statement. You should not take reference of any professor or any institution, but at the US university preference, you can take instances of the US professors. You can say that yes, I am going to this particular institution. There are two professors here who are specializing in this area, and I would like to collaborate with them, take their guidance. That will make your case much more stronger. That will give the signal that you have done enough homework and you have chosen your preferences based on your academic needs, based on your study objectives, based on your research needs. The other aspect that I would like to highlight, when you are choosing your US universities, also you can, in that justification, you can take one or two instances. I will take the same example. If you are in the field of international legal studies, you are trying to specialize on, say, laws of the sea, and you are trying to again focus on environmental aspects, protection of ecology in context of sea. There you can take the example of a particular professor. You can say that this professor is working on ecology in context of seas, and I would like to collaborate. These are the justifications that will create lots of goodwill as well as positive impression among these reviewers and the selection committee members, because they actually look forward to these justifications rather than ranking of the institutions. Gayatri, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sudarshan. Let's look at the reference reports. The application form will ask each applicant to submit 3 letters of reference. It's very important to very carefully choose your referees, and the reference reports have to be submitted online by the application deadline, which is May 14th. So while you work on your application, please reach out to the referees simultaneously and provide them with all the arms and ammunitions, such as your CV. Take an appointment with them, talk to them why you are applying for the Fulbright program, uh, discuss with them your study objectives, your seriousness, your preparedness, so that they can actually look at your CV, and also while talking to you they can then highlight some of your strengths and vouch for your candidacy for the Fulbright program. Now, when we ask for 3 letters of reference, we strongly recommend that one is an academic reference from the most recent institution that you graduated. Now, if you are someone who has, say, 10 plus or 15 plus years of work experience and you haven't stayed in touch so much with your academic institution, in those situations, you can actually choose 3 professional references. However, we strongly recommend, it's always good to have one academic reference, because if you are selected, the US universities, when they look at your entire application dossier, they do look for one academic reference. Second, look for referees who can highlight your different skill sets. So somebody who, as we said, an academic reference, somebody who is currently your supervisor, reporting officer, your somebody who's with whom you're working and is familiar with your current work, so that he or she can highlight your strengths in the current profession. Third could be somebody like, when we're talking about, say, for example, some NGO that you volunteered with for a significant period of time, or you're still currently engaged with that NGO or community involvement, and you think that will also help you to strengthen your application. Your third reference could be that. So look at people who can actually highlight your different skill sets. So that's basically from, when the selection panel look at your reference reports, or from the USIF staff who've been handling the Fulbright-Nehru Masters Fellowships for more than a decade. But let's also hear from Disha and Pallavi. Pallavi, what factors did you consider when you selected your 3 referees?
I think it was very similar to what you just recommended. But in terms of the three that I selected, it was more, one was about someone who could give testimony about my professional skills, my competence. One was academic, so someone who can give testimony to the fact that I am a rigorous researcher, I'm intellectually curious, and therefore, because eventually the Fulbright is an academic scholarship, and I think therefore it is pretty important to go ahead and add an academic reference. So this was my supervisor at this, who was my master's thesis guide. So a direct, long relationship, so someone you worked under for a significant period of time. My third one was who I thought of as my values driven referee. So this was also my boss at the time. But again, I would say that choose people you've spent a significant amount of time with. So they can also give testimony to the fact that you're committed to the field. So that's essentially how I chose my references. Two were professional, one was academic, but within the two professional one was someone that I had a mentor relationship with and who could testament about my long-standing commitment to community empowerment through media advocacy, for instance, in short.
Thank you, Pallavi. Disha?
Yeah, I agree with Pallavi. I think you should select your referees based on whether they have directly supervised your work. And usually we are in this habit of finding fancy names. And sometimes, a fancy name is something we go behind, and maybe that this big name we think is going to make the impact for us. But we've probably worked for only 2 months with this person, right? As against someone who is not such a fancy name, but this person has supervised our work, say, for 2 years. And this person is probably more um, well positioned to talk about the work that we've done and how they've observed our work, and they can actually testify to the work that we've done. So I would always suggest that this should be someone who's directly supervised your work, also someone who has supervised your work for a longer period, to observe your skills and to observe the work that you've done. As far as I am concerned, my referees were, one was, as Gayatri said, one was an academic reference. So I'd already worked for around 9 years, 8 to 9 years. One was an academic reference. This person was an academic, but I had done legal research work on a project with them. So they wrote about my research skills. I had the second referee was someone with whom I had done legal policy work. So I had drafted a policy for an institution, and I had done like policy work with them. So they sort of spoke about that work. And my third reference was a litigating lawyer at whose chambers I had worked before, and who was my senior. So they wrote about my litigation skills, etc. But overall, I think all of them, because I had worked with them for a really long time, I had also developed a bond, and they were also able to write beyond just the work that I've done. They were able to write about the person that I am, right? And what I bring in an office or in a workspace. And they always, I think all my referees, all three of them, I hope, that is what they told me, but they called me and they told me that they have written a lot about the person that I am. And I think that is also something that the Fulbright committee might value. So I would say that don't go behind fancy names and stick to the old school people who can really vouch for your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Disha. And a quick word on, the reference reports, which struck me when Disha was talking, that when you reach out to your referees, if any referee requests that, oh, why don't you write the reference report? You know yourself well, and I'll be happy to sign it. Please, that's a signal for you to look for another referee. Don't write your own reference report, because there is a pattern of thought, words, vocabulary that you use in writing your own reference, in writing your own application form. And it's not difficult for our reviewer selection panel to catch that the reference letter is also written by the applicant. So please do look for the right referees who will take the time and trouble to write your recommendation letter. Sudarshan, how important are the reference letters in the entire selection process? And I would also request you to then interweave it with the selection criteria which the reviewers, when reading the application form, as well as the selection panel, look at when they interview the candidates.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gayatri. The letters of reference play a vital role in the selection process. As Gayatri said, we share the applications with the reviewers and the selection committee members at least 3 weeks prior to the date of interview. That means the selection committee members read your application along with your letters of reference very carefully. As Disha said, please do not go by the so-called big names. Do not choose your referees just because that person is well positioned and that person does not know you well. If a person has just met you for a few hours or just knows you a few days, that person is not the right one to write a letter of preference. The selection committee members would always look forward to who has written it, how that person, that referee, knows you, at which capacity. They also look into those factors. The selection committee also evaluates you from the evaluation point of view in context of your letter of reference. The letter of reference has 11 criteria on which your referee will rate you. It could be outstanding, it could be excellent, it could be good, or needs improvement. Those 11 criteria are intellectual ability, knowledge of the field, work habits, motivation, seriousness of purpose, future contribution to the field, resourcefulness, your emotional maturity, adaptability to a new situation, your leadership qualities, and also your potential to take challenges and also work as a change leader. And if you see all these factors to a some extent are incorporated in our review criteria. I would suggest one point is that please do not influence your recommenders to give you outstanding in all factors. Give them the free hand. Let them to evaluate you from an objective point of view. They can give you one or two areas where you need to do some improvement. That's perfectly fine. That does not weaken your application. But do not ask your recommenders to give you outstanding in all areas. Sometimes we have seen that happens. It is ethically not correct, and also that does not reflect about your holistic personality. So please give your referees a free hand. If there are one or two areas where you need to improve, that does not weaken your application, I can assure you. The letters of reference also evaluated or seen from the perspective of your leadership. There is a description that the recommender writes about you as a change leader, as a leadership. What is your impact in the society? The reviewers would like to see from the letters of recommendation. Again, as I said in the beginning, your commitment, which you might have stated in your personal statement, the reviewers would like to see that in context of your letter of reference. Your dynamism and adaptability is another factor that again the selection committee members would like to see, that how your reviewer, how your the person who has written the letter of recommendation for you has seen you as a person who is dynamic. So all these factors will come out as a letter of reference. But once again, please give a free hand, and it is always good to share your project objectives with your referee so that they should know what you are proposing. And you can share your latest CV and leave everything to them
to write a letter of reference. So to conclude, the very first thing is that please follow the best practice. Second thing is that choose a referee who knows you for at least 3 years, 2 to 3 years, and who can devote 2 to 3 hours in writing a detailed letter of justification, letter of recommendation, and also let them to comment about all these aspects from your leadership, your commitment, your future plan, your dynamism, your ability to be a good cultural ambassador, because these are the things that the reviewers and the selection committee members would like to see how you are faring in all these fields from the perspective of your recommenders. Over to you, Gayatri.
Thank you so much, Sudarshan. We strongly recommend that you reach out to as many alumni as possible. So, of course, today we have Disha, Ipshita, Pallavi with us. But when you go on our USIF website, you will see the link to current fellows. And so, look at Indian fellows. We have posted the list for last 3 years. So you will actually see, say, for example, for 24-25, very soon our profiles of 25-26 Fulbright scholars will also be uploaded. So for 24-25, you will see the master's fellows, and when you click on each of the photo, you will actually see their brief bio, brief blurb about their Fulbright-Nehru Masters Fellowship in a specific field. What are they studying in the US? What are their plans, future plans, and how does their inclination to go on a Fulbright-Nehru Masters grant fit into their professional goals? So we strongly recommend that talk to as many alumni as possible. Once your drafts are ready, you can also request if they would be willing to read and give you some feedback, because they've gone through that entire process of writing the application form, going on the Fulbright program, just the way we heard from our three alumni. Their contact details are not available on the website. So, depending on the field that you're applying in, if you're looking forward to reach out to anyone specific, you can write to the USIF staff and we will be happy to provide their email ID. So to summarize, submit before the deadline. There is no Shubh Muhurat. It is not May 14th, 5, 6, 7 p.m. If your application is ready May 10th, I would say please have your internal deadline for yourself as May 10th for yourself, for your all the three referees. Follow up with your referees continuously to ensure that they submit by May 10th. Be original, authentic, genuine. We are looking forward to read your Fulbright story. Talk about the impact of events, individual experiences, rather than just listing them in the personal statement. Like, we have had extensive discussion on study objectives, personal statement, that you may talk about a certain professor who have had influence on you, uh, but talk about what was that influence and why did that influence you, or how did it help you to become what you are or make some major decisions in your professional life. Endorse your statements. Now, say for example, when you say say for example, I'm a great networker, or I'm someone who works with the community. Endorse your statement, give examples, give instances to help the committee understand what do you mean by that. When you say, so for example, I'm a leader, so leadership in what context? So give an instance to help the committee understand. When you say leader, in what context was it, and why do you think you were a leader? So some of the C's, the application should be comprehensive, clear, concise, and definitely complete. And reach out to the USIF staff if you have any clarification at any stage. We have another panel discussion coming up this Friday, and we have three more alumni who will be there to interact with you. I will not say all alumni because Pavani is still on the grant. She's going to graduate next month. She's currently at Harvard University. We have Ashwin, who is going to who graduated in public health from Johns Hopkins, and Isha Datta, who did her master's in environmental science from Columbia University. So We strongly encourage you to attend this panel discussion on Friday at 5 p.m. to hear about the perspectives or the magic that these three alumni used. If you have any questions, you can write to us at this email ID, masters@usif.org.in. This is our website, usif.org.in. We strongly encourage you to visit the website because you will find complete detailed information on the website. It's very user friendly. We are very active on social media: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You will actually see some of the panel discussions, like the one that we did earlier, which were recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So you can actually, again, that's an opportunity again for you to hear, how did other alumni go about writing their applications. So we would strongly recommend that you visit our YouTube channel, listen to those panel discussions. Also, we have posted some very short Fulbright stories of our Fulbright master's grantees, just 1 or 1.5 minute. So it's very interesting to hear those. I would say more than interesting, inspiring, because you may also want to share your Fulbright story in future. Our central office is in Delhi. That's where Sudarshan and I work. We have also regional offices in Chennai, Kolkata, and Mumbai. So you can actually reach out to any of the USIF offices. So I'm going to open it up for question and answers. We will only take 5 questions. Okay, so we already see a lot of questions. Disha, there is a question for you. So there is a question from Kamya. Thank you. So she says, thank you so much for your insights, Disha. Your work is so inspiring. My question is something that frightens me to ask, given how the US and the atmosphere around critical thinking is with the current regime. Would you strategically tailor your application, write it differently, especially the study objectives? Disha.
That's a really difficult question, and that's the first question. Yes, we are in a difficult time, and we're faced with difficult circumstances. I wrote my application, and my application was a very critical application. I was interested in critical legal studies when I wrote my application. And I can assure you that I did not mince words in my application, or I was not strategic about it. I wrote about what I wanted to do. And but considering that the situation is slightly different now, I think this is probably a question for Sudarshan and Gayatri at this moment. I am not perfectly placed to answer this question, but I would still say that right. See, all of humanity's issues are under the radar, right? So anything that you write, and even if you're not going in the critical sort of domain, that can that might not be very strategic. So I would recommend that be very honest with your application, as I was. But again, I would say over to Sudarshan and Gayatri to really answer this question. I'm really not the best person in this situation to answer this question. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Disha. Sudarshan, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I got the question. Just few
Okay,
points I would like to highlight.
sure.
As Disha said, please be honest in developing your application. What is what you are doing? What is your future plan? And I must tell you that the reviewers and the selection committee members always respect that honesty. And they actually respect that I have seen over years. The second thing is that it's more about your goal, your future plan. You should not develop the application just to get the fellowship. Please note that you may get some funds, but you are investing a huge amount of time. That is much more precious. So Please be honest. Please develop the application in the lines what you stand for, what you are doing, what is your future plan. That will be always respected and honored. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you so much, Disha and Sudarshan. I will move to the next question. Ipshita, this question is for you. This is from Priyanka. How did you tie your portfolio into personal history and statement of objectives? Was the work you put there in addition to those mentioned in these essays, or was it entirely new body of work?
That's a really good question. And I think there are two ways that you can go about it. And I've known people who have taken different routes. So, what I did though was to reiterate. So, all of my application was reiterating a few key points that I wanted to highlight. I work in disaster risk management, I work in participatory planning, I want to specialize in climate adaptation. That's what I wanted to do when I started my master's. And those were the projects that I highlighted over and over again in both my SOP, in my personal statement, and in my portfolio. I edited it down to like about, say, 5 or 6 projects over the years, which focused only on that, on those projects that I'd worked with in disaster risk management. The other route that you can go is to sort of show breadth. So what I did was that I showed depth within the application, but you could also show more breadth. So you could explain the sort of projects that you find interesting that you really didn't get to talk too much about in your application. And because a portfolio is something that's more visual, it's not something that people actually read through as much. I would say that it's okay to be showing, say, up to 10 projects in a quick snapshot of everything that you've done in your career. I would still say be selective, like maybe try and show a little bit of academic work, a little bit of professional work. And Yeah, it just doesn't have to be everything, but a little bit of everything is also an okay approach to follow.
Thank you, Ipshita. Next question is for Pallavi and Sudarshan from Shubhayan. So, Shubhayan, first thing is please note that the Fulbright is spelled with a single L, it's not double L. Now, I will go on to read the question. How keen is the Fulbright Fellowship Committee on seeing academically diverse candidates? For example, I'm an architect with a master's in rural management, and I have historically worked in media communications. I am applying for the media journalism stream, and my proposed work is in the intersections of built environment, developmental studies, and media communications. Would such strange profiles be acceptable for the committee? Pallavi, do you want to go first and then Sudarshan?
Sure, I can. I think that's a great question with a very simple answer, yes. I think in a lot of fields we take different turns, and as far as in your application you can tie it all together, the breadth of your work together with a thought train that is cohesive and coherent, I think you should be good. And also, that's a very fascinating intersection. You should definitely add that, I would say.
Thank you, Pallavi. Sudarshan, your insights as a USIF staff when you look at applications and the discussions that happen during the interviews about such
Absolutely
candidates.
yes. Absolutely yes. And as Pallavi said, it is always highly appreciated because you bring different perspectives. Not only that, you are looking at the application aspects, media journalism, built environment. So these are absolutely fine. And in the US context also, they are looking forward to selected candidates who are highlighting various aspects into their study objectives and research questions. I'll give you a small example. There are few centers in the US where the collaborative research among the students happen and they are not from the same field. You will find somebody from the field of political science, other one is from biotechnology, the third one is from public policy, the fourth one is from energy studies. They are coming together and doing some sorts of study or research on a particular topic. The positive thing is that they will be bringing various expertise to the table, which is highly appreciated. So, to conclude, it will be appreciated, but at the same time, you should also demonstrate that you have the required expertise, both professional and academic, and you can do the proposed study as you have done, as you have proposed. So, the most important factor is that how you can convince the committee, and this is something which is highly appreciated.
Thank you, Sudarshan. I'll move to the next question. We'll take two more questions. Devansh Singh Rathore. Sudarshan, maybe you can answer, and I will request any of the panelists who had faced or experienced similar things, or maybe, when prospective applicants reach out to you, if you had any similar discussion, please, you can also choose to respond to this question. So the question is, in the study objectives section, the curriculum for specializations in a particular field for colleges may differ in the US. How do you make a cogent intellectual inquiry about what you want to pursue, even though colleges you will choose have different approaches? Any tips?
The very first thing is that do not choose your study objective based on what is available at the US universities. Choose your study objective based on your goal, what you want to do in next 5 years. That is the very first thing you should do it. Do not deviate from your path just to see that you want to do a particular course, because these are the options available there. First, ensure that what you want to do, what is your future plan, and what type of course curriculum will be beneficial for you at this stage and also benefit you for next 5 years and to achieve your goals. After that, look for what are the courses are being offered. You actually may get little bit exactly not that. Uh, Ipsita can give you little more option because she had, as a part of her master's studies, she had actually done a particular program at Harvard, though she was affiliated with MIT. So in some cases that flexibility is there, but it may not be possible in all cases. I do not want to give you big hopes. So probably Ipsita can give you little more insight because of her, collaborative course between Harvard and MIT. But once again, I want to highlight that please stick to your future plan, what you want to do. After that, look for the courses. Ipsita, would you like to speak a little bit about it, how your things worked?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a very good question. And I would say for US universities, at least from my experience from MIT and from whatever I've heard from my friends who have studied in other universities, I do believe that the experience is a lot more fluid. So when I came into MIT, we have four concentrations within the urban planning field that we're supposed to be applying to. Those are like program cohorts, which say look at environmental planning and policy, or they look at international development, etc., etc. I applied to one, which was city design and development because of my background as an architecture. And then I sort of fluidly went across to international development planning. And there wasn't a lot of resistance. In fact, it's actively encouraged for you to go out and work with different concentrations, or actually just go out and even work with different departments within the same university. Now, Boston, and I know a lot of different cities, including DC, have sort of agreements between all of the universities within that city, where you can take courses within different universities that are within the city. So, like Harvard, MIT, Tufts, Boston University. A lot of students were moving in between universities and taking courses and getting credit for that as part of their coursework within their universities. And that is, I think, one very good I think aspect of US education that everyone should be taking advantage of, because I think in my 2 years doing my masters, I think I took courses across four universities, not just Harvard, but I also took courses in Tufts. and others. So I think that is definitely something that is not something that you need to be concerned about. I appreciate the fluidity of these US universities.
Thank you, Ipshita and Sudarshan. I will take a final question. I will actually combine two questions which are with regard to the reference letters. One is from Sarthak Arora and another is from Anusha. Can my academic reference, Sudarshan, maybe you can answer this question. Can my academic reference be a professor from a university where I did not study but conducted research with for 2 years? And a related one is just a second. Okay. The related one is from Anusha. Can the academic reference come from my workplace, like my supervisor instead of a professor who taught me in UG? Sudarshan.
So the the response to the first question is absolutely yes. Academic reference does not mean that you should have done your classes with that professor. If that professor knows you at a different academic capacity, it could be research, it could be some sorts of project study, but should be knowing for you at least 2 years. That professor can write the academic reference for you. Regarding the second question, that please do not take an academic reference from your professional supervisor, because the professional supervisor can talk about your ability to work in a particular environment, your teamwork and other aspects. So it will be great that your supervisor at work should give you a letter of preference from your professional capacity. I would recommend that your academic letter of reference should come from a professor who has taught you, or from somebody who has been working with you from the academic point of view. It could be research or any project from the academic aspects.
Thank you so much, Sudarshan. So, with this, we will close the session today. There were a few questions related to more the technical eligibility and other fellowships. Please reach out to us via email or a phone call. So, I would take this opportunity to thank all our panelists, Disha, Ipshita, Pallavi, and Sudarshan, for coming together today to mentor the prospective applicants. I really hope that the prospective applicants found this session extremely useful, and they may reach out to you, Disha, Pallavi, and Ipshita, for more questions, and they may even come up with their Fulbright stories to share with you as they write their application. So thank you so much, everyone, and we wish you all the best with your application. Stay safe, take care. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.